Hey guys, it's Sandro here, and today's video is a detail on this 2020 Lexus NX.
I know we'll make it right. We've been here before. I know we crossed the line. It's hard to ignore.
Now recently I've been getting a number of questions from viewers who have either just purchased a relatively new second-hand vehicle like 2 to 4 years old, or are a few years into their new car purchase and are asking, what can I do to restore the vehicle's appearance and ensure it's well protected moving forward? So when this 3 to 4 year old Lexus rolled into the shop, I thought it'd be a great example to run you through the process I undertake to restore and protect a vehicle that honestly isn't all that bad, especially when looking at it from a distance, but still isn't all that great, especially when getting a little closer and exposing it to some direct light. Maybe the reason why I've been getting more questions about near new rather than brand new vehicles lately is that in just a few short years, everything has skyrocketed in price to the point that many previous new car buyers are now forced to turn to the second-hand car market. Just take this Lexus NX F Sport for example. Brand new, it cost around 65 to 70 grand here locally in 2020. Now you're looking at over 90 grand if you want a 2024 model. That's just an insane jump in price in such a short period. But if you're willing to look at a low mileage second-hand example, can be bought for closer to half the new vehicle asking price. So my hope with this video is to show you that a newish second-hand car bought for a fraction of the price can absolutely be restored back to a like-new appearance, and in many cases even better than the day it left the dealership. That's really what I want to give my client who just purchased this 2020 Lexus NX. That new car experience at a fraction of the price. Now every job is a little different, and what my client has opted for based on his wants and budget is a full deep exterior cleanse with an additional engine bay clean, a single stage paint correction including all the gloss plastic trims and glass, a top tier 2-stage ceramic paint coating, as well as coatings for the outer wheel faces, engine bay, exterior trims and glass. So no interior or wheels off or door jams process on this one guys, but I actually did end up doing a little complimentary interior stain removal and tidy up as well. So that's the rundown on this job. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and let's get to it.
Won't you give me a way to be free from these chains that bind me?
The first area I tackled were the wheels. I started with a pressure rinse down to remove the lighter dirt and cool the area down as it was a rather hot day. I applied my tyre cleaner / degreaser over the wheel well and tyre walls, as for those specific areas it tends to work best. That was followed by my wheel cleaner with iron removal over the metal rim, as once again that chemical is safer and works best for those specific areas. After the chemicals were allowed to dwell for a couple of minutes, the whole area was given another pressure rinse down. This is basically what we call the pre-clean step, which is all about removing as much grime as possible in a safe touchless manner, so we're not pushing all that dirt over the wheels and scuffing them up during the physical clean. I then reapplied my chemicals and got down to business using a variety of brushes to give the whole wheel area a thorough deep clean. Different wheel brushes for the wheel arches, tyre walls, inner barrels and outer wheel faces are all a little different in terms of their bristles, materials, shape and length, as they all serve specific needs. I'll try and add as many links to the products I've used in this video in the description box, but as I mention all the time, you don't need to use exactly what I'm using. There's lots of different products that will get the job done well. Next in line was the engine bay clean. After masking any water sensitive areas, I started by using compressed air to blow off all the looser dirt and particles. I then divided the engine bay into quarters and section by section I applied my all-purpose cleaner dilution, allowed it to dwell for a couple of minutes, and then used my Tornador air cleaning tool with a light degreaser solution to blast all the nooks and crannies clean in a very safe, quick and very effective process. I then switched to clean water in the Tornador's tank reservoir bottle and also used it to rinse the lifted grime and chemical residue off the engine bay components. I'll also quickly add that if you want a more step-by-step instructional video on any specific detailing areas, just go to the video tab of this channel and in the search bar type in engine bay, wheels, door jambs, interior, paint correction, coatings, or even my favorite detailing products. And there's a long list of content that further expands on the topics I'm covering in this video. After all the cleaning was completed, I then removed the masking tape, dried the engine bay and turned the engine over, allowing it to reach normal operating temperature to further remove the remaining moisture. I will be ceramic coating the engine bay later on in the video, but for now it was a great preparation cleaning result, very quick, easy and effective. So onto the exterior decontamination process. My first step was applying an alkaline leaning pre-soak foam to start degreasing, softening and loosening the exterior grime so that when I follow up with my pressure washer rinse, I will be able to remove as much of that dirt as possible in a safe touchless manner. The next step was using an acid-leaning wash detergent in a physical hand wash process. So in a general top to bottom, section by section method, the entire vehicle was given a thorough but safe hand wash. In many of the more intricate trim areas such as window sills, around badges and grills, I used a detailing brush with an all-purpose cleaner dilution to help agitate, dislodge and then rinse off some of the more stubborn trapped dirt and grime buildup. Upon further inspection, I could still see some mild positive water behaviour and feel a little slickness in the finish, indicating that there was still a little wax or sealant residue remaining that would need to be further stripped off. But even more apparent was the high level of environmental fallout that felt like a fine sandpaper and actually surprised me, being way more contaminated than I would have expected on a vehicle this age and in this condition. So to both chemically and mechanically remove the bonded fallout and strip off that remaining paint sealant, I used an all-in-one clay lubricant and iron traffic film remover with a synthetic clay towel. This worked an absolute treat to strip off that foreign matter, not only on the paint but also on all the glass and plastic gloss trims. After a final inspection to ensure the paint and trims both looked and felt clean and bare, it was then time to dry the vehicle, firstly removing the bulk of the standing water with a drying towel and then using compressed air to remove all the trapped water. It was then time for a few pre-correction steps, starting with an alcohol-based IPA wipe down to remove any remaining chemical residue, water streaks, or kicked up dust from the drying process. With all the paint and trims clean and bare, this is the best time to do a proper paint inspection. Now, I could clearly see some clay marring in the form of spider webbing swirls, which is always very easy to remove with the lightest of polishing, so I'm not too concerned about that. But it certainly indicates that this paint is going to be soft, which is no surprise being a Lexus. Apart from that, there are a number of more moderate to heavy scratches, as well as quite a few bug and water edgings that I will do my best to remove, if not largely reduce in appearance. Next was measuring the paint. I have to say that it brought me a little joy seeing constant high OEM paint thickness readings around 150 to 200 microns, which may be the highest I've seen on any relatively new car in quite some time. Even the door jambs were around 100 microns, which is more paint than you'll see on the exterior of many new cars today. Now 10-20 years ago, and the further back you go, this was normal or even low paint thickness readings by comparison. But today you're lucky to see 100 microns on a new car, so well done Lexus, it's really nice to see some decent paint thickness readings for a change. So finally onto the paint correction stage. Now, being almost certain that this paint will be quite soft, it's really important to start with a very light polish, pad and technique combination, as I certainly don't want to remove more paint than is absolutely necessary. So for a first test section, I'm using a fine polish with a super fine foam finishing pad, a bare amount of polish being an unprimed pad, a slowish machine speed, just a touch of pressure, and a very quick 60-second 3-pass polishing cycle. In other words, this is just about as gentle as it gets when polishing car paint, removing next to no clear coat. Having a look at the results, I have to say that I was quite surprised at how much of the defects this super gentle combination and technique was able to remove. Probably around 70%, which is insane. But although the gloss is also greatly improved, it's still a touch hazy, almost like there's a little oxidation that wasn't quite all removed. For a second test section, I used the same polish with just an ever so slightly stiffer or more standard foam polishing pad, but also added a fraction more polish, turned my machine speed up just a touch, used a fraction more pressure, and did an extra row of passes. In other words, this was just a very incremental, maybe 10% jump in aggression to see if it would remove a little more of the defects and clean up a little more of that oxidation in the finish. Right on cue, the results were just as I'd hoped, and don't think for a second that it always works out that way, as it certainly always doesn't. But the defect removal in this section is a good 80% plus, and the gloss and clarity is also greatly improved, being a finish that I'm actually quite happy with and delivers what I promised to my client in that single stage level of correction he opted for. However, what happens if we try another incremental increase, say another 5 to 10%? Can I get to that 90% defect removal rate without compromising the finish? I think it's worth a try. So using just a slightly stiffer one-step foam pad with just an extra drop of polish, a half dial machine speed increase, moderate pressure, and a good 90-second polishing set, I tried a third test section. Then I tried it again. And then I tried it yet again. and after confirming that the results were very consistent, this really was the best overall outcome, edging into that 90% plus defect removal range with the best gloss and clarity outcome by far. Now the other thing I needed to test out was if this combination would work just as well on the piano black and clear plastic trims. These trims were definitely, at least overall, more severely scratched and defected compared to the red paint, so I was a little unsure if the results would be as good. Now in some cases I did end up going over these trims a couple of times to get a result I was happy with, but overall the defect removal and finish I was able to achieve definitely met, if not surpassed, what I promised to my client. I think that brings up a good point to touch on here, which is clear communication with your client and managing expectations. Now with the paint correction side of things, I gave my client a few options, such as more in-depth, time-consuming and costly multi-stage correction options that would obtain even higher levels of results, but also sacrifice a little more clear coat in the process, as well as this lighter stage single correction he opted for that would be more cost effective, as well as retain more of the original clear coat. I made sure to clearly communicate that in this level of correction, I would pursue the best possible gloss outcome, as well as remove at least 75% of the existing defects. Though, just between you and me, I always intended on delivering better than I claimed. In other words, I like my clients to make informed decisions, and I'm also in the mindset that I like to under-promise and over-deliver. What this also does is give me plenty of leeway if and when that car comes in with the impossible paint that is just a nightmare to correct. So in those instances, I can still at the very least deliver what I promised to my client if I can't over-deliver as I typically like to. I'd also highly recommend you never use words like perfect, 100% or flawless when talking to a potential client. Now, I've certainly had clients who have used those words to react to the job I've done on their cars, which is very nice and flattering to hear, but it's also far from the truth. No job I've ever done, nor any work I've ever seen from any other detailer has ever been perfect. I can always spot defects or imperfections. No job is or ever will be perfection, so never promise something you simply can't deliver. There is but one being who walked this earth displaying perfection in everything he did, and it ain't you, me, or Charlie down the road. Now, as I also mentioned earlier, my client did opt for an all-round glass coating. So in preparation for that coating, all the glass was polished using the very same combination to ensure the glass got a nice deep clean to remove any etchings and give the coating a great foundation to bond to. So with all the correction work completed, it was then time to move on to the coating process, starting with the wheels. I used compressed air to remove any light dust and then performed an IPA wipe down to ensure the surface was clean and bare. Then using a foam applicator, which I prefer for wheels, I spread the coating evenly over the wheel face, worked it in for a good minute or so, making sure to go over the whole area several times. The coating was allowed to flash for a few minutes, and then using a first cloth to remove the majority of the excess residue and a second cloth to buff it streak free, all the wheels were given a first layer of the coating. About 2 hours later, a second layer was applied to each wheel, and a few hours after that, the tyres were given a dressing using a long-term tyre sealant, and a little after that, all the wheels were covered to continue curing.
Still can't let you go.
The next coating area in line was the engine bay. I once again started by removing any dust and doing an IPA wipe down. As per request by my client, I also cleaned and coated the inner bonnet before moving onto the engine bay components. One tip I'll add here when coating an engine bay is to try and divide it up like I also did during the cleaning process. There's just so many little intricate areas and components that you need to get in and around that it really helps to do a good job if you can just concentrate on small sections at a time rather than trying to coat the whole engine bay at once. But apart from that, it's really no different to applying a coating on car paint. Lay it down nice and evenly, work it in thoroughly, allow it to flash or bond, and then remove its excess. We'll have a better look at the engine bay with the final shots of the car, but I thought it looked as good as new by the end. It was then time to coat all the exterior glass. I started with the front windscreen that was divided into 4 sections, and the glass coating was thoroughly applied and worked over each section where it flashed quite quickly, and then the excess residue or hazy areas were leveled down to a crystal clear finish. After completing all 4 sections of the front windscreen, a second layer was applied about half an hour later, and the rest of the car's glass was given a single layer of the coating. Last but not least was the bulk of the coating application over the car paint and trims, starting with the first base layer of the more hardened and scratch resistant coating.
Another day with the sunny sky, trying to light my way, but I'd rather be in the dark. I feel all the romance in the stars, surrounded by the universe with the moon and Mars. I feel it. Will you stay with me under the moonlight? We'll be magical as we dream.
The coating was applied into an approximately meter square section at a time, using horizontal and vertical overlapping lines, allowing it to flash and bond to the paint, which on that particular day was about 5 minutes or so. I then used a first microfiber cloth to quickly gather the majority of the excess coating, and a second cloth to buff the finish streak-free.
Let's slip away, far away from all this noise.
About 2 or so hours later, I then applied the second top layer coating that's a little more hydrophobic, slick and glossy, so the contrast of the base layer and top layer coatings just works so well in harmony as a two-stage coating system. Like I mentioned before guys, if you want a better guide on how to apply these coatings or really any other product or area in this video, just have a search on this channel, as I have reviews and step-by-step guides on many of them.
Will you stay with me under the moonlight?
So let's wrap up this video. I actually quite enjoyed this job, and I think part of that reason is because if it was my own car, I think I would have approached it exactly the same. Not trying to sacrifice too much clear coat by cutting the paint right back, but preserving as much of the original paint as possible while obtaining a great result and making sure it's got the best paint protection in place. That's really where I'm at these days with my own cars, and also not being afraid to use and even sometimes abuse them. Cars are meant to be driven and used and serve at our pleasure rather than the other way around. And if you put the work in to ensure they're well serviced and protected, you should enjoy the fruits of your labor rather than fussing over every little issue or imperfection. I love my job and I love my cars. These are passions that have shaped me as a person, but there's other things I love more, and my job and my cars should be serving me rather than me serving them, which I think has been the case for quite a number of years now. This has got to be a clear sign of me getting older, but I also hope a little wiser as well. Now time-wise, this job was a full week's work, or about 35 to 40 hours in total, and yes, that works out to a few grand in price, or about $100 an hour, which I typically charge. But if you take into account that the owner saved about 40 grand compared to buying a brand new Lexus NX, then taking about 10% of that saving and putting it into making this car look like new again, as well as adding some fantastic protection, seems like a great investment. But if you have the time and are willing to invest in a few detailing products and tools, you can absolutely do it yourself for a fraction of the price. I'm not saying you can go 0 to 100 in your first go at detailing, but you can absolutely produce a great improved result, and you'll only get better and better at it the more you practice. One of the most rewarding things I get to experience is not only grateful clients, but also hearing back from students from my detailing classes, and even hearing back from you guys who have watched some of my videos and put that detailing into practice, restoring, protecting, and maintaining your own cars. It's just a highlight of my day when detailing brings a little joy to someone's life and I get to hear about it. My goal with this job was to hand over to my client a result that not only resembled the new car, but was also respectful in maintaining as much of the original clear coat as possible, while ensuring it would have some of the best paint protection in place moving forward. But you guys can be the judge of the results. I should also mention that it was unfortunately raining on the day I completed the car, so I wasn't able to pull the car outside and take some natural light footage as I usually do. I'll leave it here guys, and if you enjoyed this video and would like to say thanks and help support future content, you can do so by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/ccad, in which I'll leave a link to in the description box, or you can now hit the thanks button below the video, and thank you everyone for all the support so far. As always, I really hope you guys enjoyed and found this video helpful. Please share it with others, take the time to give this video a like, and leave a comment below to show your support for this content, and I'll see you guys soon.
Oh, that's beautiful. Wow. You did an amazing job. Wow. Beautiful. Wow. I'm really happy with it.
He was 16, holding her hand. They were wasting all the time they had. They were building big wonders they knew. Time stayed as long as they wanted, remained as much as they needed. The world flies around me with you. Won't you be mine forever? Stay here together, we can nurture each other. Find us another world to be. All the beauty we'll see. Won't you sing me a song and take me among the flowers? We'll grow, we'll conquer the world. These feelings will remain with me. She was 15, spinning in a daydream, waiting, counting and wishing for that ship to sail them away. Can't you see it's coming, shining in the distance, beaming, leaving our reason behind. Let's be here and stay. Let's stay here forever, be here together. We could nurture each other, find us another world to be. All the beauty we'll see.